All right, back with another random video, guys. Anyways, my camera's kind of getting low on battery. I just wanted to talk about this is kind of a random subject. I was on YouTube. I'm sure a lot more people have been watching random videos, but they always have suggested videos on there, and there's just a bunch of random stuff most of the time based on, I guess, some videos that you've watched. But I got recommended a few videos by this guy, Better Bachelor, and he actually has a really interesting channel. He talks about relationships and women in general, and just kind of the dating culture. He's got an interesting take on a lot of things between men and women, and it's just interesting to listen to his videos, because he references a lot of articles and things of women and how, like, they feel, well, there's less dating, and there's, you know, a lot more, there's obviously a very high divorce rate still, and there's just less and less people getting married. And a lot of the stuff he says is, you know, because marriage is really one-sided. You know, for a man, it's not a very good deal, because so many of them end in divorce, and it ends with the man losing a lot of his assets and having to pay child support, and maybe not being able to see the kid. And now, obviously, that's not every marriage. I would never say that, and he doesn't either. I think he does a good job of just being realistic about it. You know, also, like, the double standard between men and women, and his perspective, obviously, you know, because he's a guy, he's talking from his own experience, and just kind of the you know, the interesting, almost every video he makes is pretty interesting to listen to, because I think a lot of it's pretty true. You know, for example, you know, like with the internet and technology, it's turned that whole thing into just like people are just matching with each other, you know, based on looks. And so what he was saying is, like, you know, if you use the 1 to 10 scale of women and men, right? If you're a 1, you're obviously not very attractive. If you're a 10, you're like supermodel type level, and then, you know, if you're somewhere in between, obviously you guys know. But what will happen is that, you know, guys, women in general, and he had a video as well on how they're wired to just want what they can't get. So they're always chasing after, you know, the guy that they can't get. And the funny thing is if they actually do end up getting that guy, or the guy ends up, you know, liking them and maybe being, you know, monogamous, I guess is the term he uses a lot, with them, then they get bored and they move on, because they always want a challenge. So it's really never enough for women. I think that's kind of different for men. I think men, what he was saying too is that you'll have women who are like average looking, or maybe a little better than average looking, and they will sleep or have a little thing with a guy that's like a 9 or a 10, because guys will do that. That's what he says as well. You know, the guys will sleep around with anyone pretty much, because it's easy. You know, they have to put in a lot of work if they want to get a very good looking woman. And so a lot of times we're like, well, I'll just do nothing basically, and have a 6 or 7 looking woman out of 10, or an 8, probably not an 8, but a decently good looking woman come over. And so what that does to the woman is she's no longer interested in guys that are her equal, you know, not, and this isn't anything to do with personality, this is just based on your looks. Because what do people base on all these dating apps? You don't have the ability to talk to anyone anymore. It's only based on your looks. So you could be the smartest, most intelligent, funniest person out there, but you'll never get a chance because maybe they didn't like the way you looked. And obviously that's important, right? You know, the way someone looks is, you either like the way they look or you don't. So and there's really nothing you can do to change that. But what he was saying is that, you know, this woman who's a 6 or a 7, so, you know, a pretty good looking woman, but not not a 9 or a 10, right? She is going to sleep or have a 1 month or a 2 month fling or relationship with a guy, and now all of a sudden she has a false reality of what she is, right? That 9 or 10 guy is never going to want to settle down with her because he can get whatever he wants whenever he wants, right? So why would he ever want to settle down with, he probably wouldn't even settle down with a 9 or a 10 because he can literally just sleep around with whoever he wants, right? He doesn't have to be his personality doesn't matter, you know, he basically gets by on his looks alone. So and that's what this Better Bachelor guy says. It's like, you know, to the 10 or 20% of men who are, you know, their looks, it's very easy for them to just get women without having to do anything. And so they're kind of ruining it for everyone else because all of a sudden women, you know, they're only interested in the top 10%. And of course the top 10% of people that they're chasing will never be long-term interested in them, or very rarely they will be. And so guys that are, you know, 5s, 6s, 7s, they just get ignored by girls that are 5s and 6s and 7s because the guys at the top have given them a false sense of their looks, maybe, and, you know, made them, and he does a very good job on his profile of looking at people's dating profiles, and a lot of them are like, you know, 30 or 40 years old, they have kids, or, you know, their profile says, I don't want to settle, you must be 6 foot tall, you must, you know, do this, you must make this amount of money, you must support me and my family, me and my kids, right? It's just like, who the heck is gonna want to do that? Or a lot of them say, you know, 25, I don't want to play any games, mother of 2 beautiful daughters. You know, it's just like, guys see that and it's like, why would I even want to get involved in that, right? You know, I'm definitely not interested in someone who is only wanting to be serious right away because they've already had their fun and they fooled around, and now they just want someone to come in and support them and basically be like a father figure. You know, all the fun's over, right? And so that's what they do. They end up chasing after guys that will never want to settle down with them. And the 80% of men who aren't supermodels or very good looking, they get a bad name, right? And that's what he says all the time. He's like, these people just, you know, average looking men, or maybe even a little bit better than average looking men, are leaving dating altogether because it's, you know, even if you get into a relationship with a woman, if you're a man and you're a 6 out of 10 looks and you get into a relationship with a 6 out of 10 woman, so you guys are essentially equals on that spectrum, yeah, she's gonna be dating you, but the moment, and again, this is in his videos and I just find it interesting, and it's true, right? The moment that someone comes along that's a guy that's maybe an 8 or 9 or a 10 and gives her a look or matches with her on a dating app, she's gonna bail and she's gonna go sleep around with those guys, right? So she'll leave you at the drop of a hat because the guys up at the top they just want it easy. It's totally true. I mean, I've seen it happen firsthand, right? The guys can jump on the dating app, match with pretty much anyone they want, send 1 or 2 messages, and have the girl coming over to literally knocking on their door, like within an hour or 2, just based on their profile. And guys, you know, that are in the middle somewhere, they're not even getting matches, right? Because the girls that are 6s and 7s or 5s even, that should be matching with average looking guys that are, you know, similar to them, they don't even want to match with anyone. They only want to match with guys that are much better looking than them because they can sleep with them. But the thing that they don't know is that guy that matches with them, who's an 8, 9, or 10, is never going to want to settle down probably with anyone, right? But he's most certainly not going to want to settle down with someone who's a lot less, you know, who's a lot worse looking than him, right? He's only going to want to sleep with you and then just kind of kick you to the curb. And so that's kind of where it's at. So you see all these profiles of women who are in their 30s and 40s and sometimes even older. Again, the guy's name is Better Bachelor, but he does he'll have people's profiles on these dating apps, and you see just the ridiculous amount of stuff they want you to be. And it's like, hey, you're no longer really, you know, you're not young anymore. You're not necessarily, you know, you think you're really good looking, but you're not, you know, as good as looking as you maybe think you are. Your standards for men are, you're only interested in like really, really good looking men who are going to support you financially. And then they argue about where did all the good guys go and when am I ever going to find the right guy? Well, you're never going to find that person. And he uses the term of finding a needle in a needle stack. So it's no longer finding a it's no longer about finding the needle in the haystack, because, you know, the needle in the haystack is like, well, I'm gonna play around in the hay and I'm gonna find the needle eventually and it's not gonna hurt. But now you have to, you know, play around in a bunch of needles to try to find someone who's good. So it's gonna be a very painful process. So many people are just disconnecting altogether because they know if they get into any sort of relationship, the woman you know, she already feels like she has the guy, right? So it's no longer exciting for her. She wants to you know, try to get something that's when she sees a guy show interest in her who's a lot